difficulty initiating stream,
Frequency.
they may also have incontinence. Because the problem is I'm just choking off, the urine can't exit the body, so I got problems doing that. So this is what the things that they're usually complaining about when you talk to them about, hey, what the heck is going on here? All right, so as this is something they're going to notice more and more as the condition gets worse. So you're talking about the effect of, and the reason that you start seeing it at these particular ages is that's when you're going to start seeing issues that are happening with hormones. The same thing for women when you talk about estrogen being decreased and the kind of stuff we're complaining about. Same kind of issues when you talk about that effect on prostate. So as the prostate gets larger and larger, you're going to see these symptoms intensify. So at the beginning, they don't even complain to you at first. But once these become things that start to interfere with them being able to sleep, starting to have pain because I don't feel like I'm emptying my bladder fully, because that's what usually happens. They're going to, if they have difficulty initiating stream, it starts decrease the strength of stream. You know how sometimes when you hear people going to the bathroom, it sounds like they're just emptying a bucket at one time kind of thing. But now they triple. These are kind of things that they're complaining about when they're talking about urinating. They may also have some bladder distension because you have so much swelling that's going on in the prostate. They may also have urinary tract infections because remember they're holding the urine there for a long time. So those are things that you see associated with that. So dysuria, pain, those types of things may happen with your patient as well. Now the thing about it is we need to come and evaluate this and see what's going on with the person. So we need to bring the guy in and say, hey, he's going to tell us that I'm having this history of what's going on. So you do a whole physical exam because you need to do that. The person's just complaining about urinary stuff, you do a whole physical exam on the patient. So that's what we're going to do. Look at what's going on with him, talk about what medications he's on, if he's on any. Okay, this time of year is a good time to figure this out in people, because this is probably one of the times of year when you have a lot of people come in who may have had stabilization in their symptoms and all of a sudden they get worse. And the histamines makes this worse. So we got all this pollen going on right now. That's why you'll have guys come in now who weren't complaining other times of year, but now when you take antihistamines, it makes it harder for you to urinate. So that's when you'll see a lot of them actually come in and say, I can't stand it anymore, I'm bloated around the middle, all this kind of stuff. Because the reason you have to do that is if you have a person who's been sitting there for a long time that way, a physical obstruction can cause the patient to go into renal failure. Okay, so that's why you have to make sure you're doing a complete physical exam on the patient. So once he comes in, we're going to do that. Okay? And we're going to tell him, if I know this is what he's coming in for, there's some stuff I do need to tell him before they come to the hospital to come see me. Okay? Because I got to do some evaluation. Because yes, I'm going to do your physical exam, but the day before you cannot have sex. The day before you can't do anything that you're sitting on something hard that you're doing exercise on. So say a person spins or something like that for exercise, rides on a bike, a motorcycle, those types of things. I know that sounds crazy, but anything that massages the prostate can give you a value that's not normal on your prostate lab work. So that's part of the reason why you don't do that. Okay, so you have to abstain the day before. You want to make sure they're not, doing anything where they're sitting on a bike or some surface where they're working out or that kind of thing where the prostate can be manipulated, because essentially that's what you don't want to happen. All right, so you have them do that the day before. Tell them to extend. When they come to the office, that's when you draw their lab work. They may be sitting out there for a little while, not ready to see you yet. But the reason being, if I manipulate your prostate, I can change your values. So blood work is always done before we do any of that. So you're going to come in and see, I do your blood work, then I can do your part of your physical exam where I'm going to have to actually put my finger in the rectum and feel your prostate. Now the prostate exam itself is not awful, because guys will say the same thing, we don't like GYN exams, but the same thing is for a guy, they don't like to have prostate exams either. You as a nurse don't have to do those.
Oh, good. What was our question? The doctors have
Doctors, nurse practitioners, PAs, is part of your physical exam. So if you came to work, or if I had to do a physical exam for you to go someplace to work, and instead you had to do a prostate exam, you have to. So there's actually prostate forms, so you can see what it feels like. I have to bring one so y'all can see it. But it's not so exciting. To a guy, it's like, all right. So what you have to do is you just lube up your finger, and when you're feeling around, the prostate actually feels like it's soft and gives away when it's a normal prostate. Okay, so what it just feels like is you're feeling like a peach on the edge, and you just feel it smooth, and that's how it feels. Okay. But when you have a person who has hypertrophy, it's harder to get your finger there, and it's more firm. If it's cancerous, it's usually irregular. You can actually feel the cancer in there. It's usually irregularity that's associated with it, and it's bumpy. Okay, so instead of feeling soft and nice, it feels hard, and you usually can feel like craters and that kind of stuff when there's cancer. So you are in your head, if you're doing an exam on a patient, you can tell whether they have hypertrophy. You can tell whether they have cancer, but you never tell a person, I think you have cancer. I said, wait till your lab work comes back, and we're going to see you for further follow-up. But you can tell. I mean, you can feel it. Sometimes you feel it's, big nodules, sometimes there's little ones, but you can actually feel them for the most part. Once that is done, but you always want to do lab work first, because if I'm doing that manipulation, it can change the values. I can get a highly, elevated one that's erroneous, because it's usually going to elevate them. You usually don't see people on the other side being low. But then you scare people that they have cancer and they don't. Okay? So you want to make sure that you do all those things together. The symptoms that the patient is complaining about, you're doing the physical exam on the patient, you're doing lab work. So those kind of three things go together. Also, the other thing that is different, because when you read these, it don't sound the same. The other thing that's different is this is a slow-growing cancer. And usually before the person presents to you, they may have mets. And what's the place where they usually have metastasis is usually the lower back, hip. So if a guy's coming to you with these constellation of symptoms and telling you, I have a lot of back pain, a lot of hip pain, the next thing you do is send them an x-ray to see whether or not they have metastasis to bone. That's the stuff you worry about. And that's why, especially when you have a young person, because you can have it, like I said, in people who are 30 years old. There was a guy who, one of the people that actually came and did our thing at HCC was one of the Buccaneers, brought him and his dad, because his dad had prostate cancer, and he had prostate cancer in his 30s. You just never know. Young, healthy person who you never know looking at him, they have a problem. But first degree relative, if you see that, that's what you worry about. You also worry in second degree, but especially first degree relative. So if your dad had it, you need to be screened for it. If you had an uncle that had it, you need to be screened for it as well. So you look for it in certain age groups less than 40. But the majority of the time, you really want your first rectal exam done by the age of 40, for sure, for guys. Okay. So when we have these now, we're going to treat them pretty much the same way as far as how we get rid of this problem in your patient, okay, for the most part. But cancer I got to get rid of. So that's the surgery thing. I might do some radiation. I might do some stuff. But with BPH, the first thing and the most conservative thing you can do for a patient is give them medication. Okay, so there are certain things we can do to actually help to shrink the size of the prostate just a tad, but also that are going to increase the ability of the person to actually have a good night's sleep, that kind of thing. So the first drugs you see used for this are alpha blockers. What are they also used for? We also use them for blood pressure medicine. They are the cheaper ones, the drugs to use when you're talking about BPH, because they're going to help with symptoms. What they do is help to decrease the size of the prostate just slightly. So what it does is actually going to increase your ability to be able to sleep at night. Because generally what men tell you is, I got to get up and pee 15 times a night. So what this does, and why you give it to a patient at night as well, because alpha blockers have a big effect on blood pressure. Yes, we use them for hypertension, but they're not first-line drugs. They're drugs that are used down the list because they have a lot of side effects with them, especially for orthostatic hypotension. Okay, so the reason we give it to the patient at night is because I don't care if you're hypotensive at night because you're in bed most of the time. But it still takes you about a couple of weeks to start seeing the difference. It's not going to be something that works right away as far as decreasing the frequency that you're getting up at night, but you will see an improvement of symptoms in patients. So that's conservative, but it still has an effect on blood pressure. Patients need to know that when you get out of bed, get up slow. Sit at the side of the bed before you go to the bathroom, because that's going to help you normalize your blood pressure so you're not falling down having syncopy when you get up. But it's cheaper than the other one we use, which is Flomax. And you probably see a lot of patients on Flomax. It kind of tells you what it does, maximize the flow of urine. That's what they call it that. It's a medication that's going to help decrease the size of the prostate, so you decrease the frequency, waking up, getting up at night, the feelings of dysuria, can't empty my bladder, all of those things that you use for your patient. Now this one can be given morning and night, usually given in the morning for patients. But this is one that you see a lot used for patients who have, you don't even have to know what they have. You see that, you go, oh, yeah, I have some prostate enlargement. That's conservative, yeah.
I just have a couple women that I see that get Flomax, so that would probably be like, obviously the same type of issue, like the bladder spasm.
Yeah, it's still, whenever you see something that's generally given to a guy that is now given to a woman, it's treating some of the same type of symptoms, or it's an off-label use for the medication. Because just like Viagra for women is used for pulmonary hypertension, as opposed to erectile dysfunction. So that's going to help them increase their urinary flow and actually be able to sleep at night. So that's what you're going to see as a conservative thing. Then you get into patients having surgery. Okay, so if those conservative things don't help the patient, you're still having these symptoms, I'm still uncomfortable, this kind of thing, then the patient's going to actually have transurethral resection of the prostate. So they're going to go in, and actually it's kind of like, it's sad to say, but that's essentially what they're doing, is going in and making the hole bigger. So we used to call that roto-rooter. Go around, it's really mean to guys when you think about what's going on. But essentially what you're doing is going around the urethra, transecting the prostate so you can make the opening bigger, therefore it's going to make output better for the patient. So transurethral resection of the prostate, or TURP, as you see it abbreviated. Now you know you have to write all that out on the consent form. It has to have transurethral resection of the prostate, it has to be written out. You can never abbreviate anything on the consent form for a patient. So doctors explain what they're going to do for the patient. So they're essentially going in, they're decreasing the size, debulking the size of the prostate. They're going to put in a Foley catheter because you got to drain the urine out, but the prostate is very vascular. So the person's going to have a lot of bleeding after this procedure. Okay. So this is when you get into continuous bladder irrigation, or CBI. Okay, old people call it Murphy drift. Okay, because that's what we used to call it. All right? But continuous bladder irrigation is what's going to happen with the patient. Now this Foley catheter is not the same your everyday Foley catheter. I already know there's going to be a lot of blood coming out of this patient, so I need to put in a larger catheter to accommodate the flow of urine that's coming out, but also if they have clots and that kind of thing. So you know how we put in 16 and 18s? These are usually 30. Okay, 28s and 30s. And you're like, oh my God, they're big ones, as I call them. Okay, when you put in catheters. The main reason is because you need to make sure you can have good flow of urine, get rid of clots if you have to in this patient. And that's the part that you hate to see happen, is that what you want to do during the first 24 to 48 hours after this procedure, pretty much run your continuous bladder irrigation so that you only see, at the minimum, peach-colored urine. I should say the maximum. Your urine should be clear. That's what you want. But if it gets peach-colored, I can live with that. If the redder it gets, the more problems you're going to have with the patient. Okay. So that when I say peach, it really does look like it's peach-colored urine coming out here. So keep the flow going big time. The other thing that's going to be different in your catheter, instead of that little 1,000 cc bag, there's a 3,000 cc bag that's going to be your collection bag on the patient, because your continuous bladder irrigations have 3,000 cc's in them. Okay. So you're going to see your regular catheter that you're going to see going to the patient. You're going to have a big old bag over here that's your collection bag. On your catheter itself, it's going to have 2 lumens. It's going to be one going into the patient. There's going to be another spout that's going to be your That's your balloon. Balloon also has 30 cc's in it. So you know how the regular catheter has about 10? Always remember that. If you got a person who had some type of bladder surgery, catheter is larger, and it also has more water in the balloon. I always pull out, squeeze out the water, pull out, squeeze. I always try to make sure there's nothing left. When you pull this out, if that balloon had 20 cc's left in it, because if they're leaking, sometimes the doctor's going to come in and put even more fluid in there. Just because it says 30, the patient may have 40 in there. So don't ever take it for granted that it's just the amount that's in there. That's part of the reason I don't care when I take a catheter out of a patient. I always pull back what it says the balloon has, get rid of it, pull it back one more time so I can see that we actually collapsed the catheter itself, and then I know there's nothing left in there. Twist it off. I know there's no water in the balloon. Less problem for the patient. If you try to pull, you know, crazy people pull them out on their own. You've seen them do that, and it looks like somebody killed somebody in there. So patient confused, you understand that, but for a nurse to do that, it's not cool. Okay, so make sure it's empty. So they're always going to tell you how many cc's are in that balloon if you look at the balloon or the little wedgie thing that's hanging out, the pilot balloon. Okay. And over here you're going to have another area. This is where your continuous bladder irrigation is going to be hanging up. Okay, so you're going to have a Y connector that's going to come down there. You're going to have two bags hanging up on poles. You're going to open those, and you're going to let it flow until it's either clear or peach. Don't ever want red. If it's getting redder or it's peak, raise your fluid. Make the fluid go in faster. But you also make sure that it's actually clearing the patient. Okay, so if you increase it up here, you put in 3,000 in the patient, nothing coming out, problematic. Okay, patient already going to be miserable because you're going to see it like they having a baby kind of thing. But the other thing is when you do that, you got to make sure they're actually clearing it. That's coming out. They might have a clot there. Getting rid of clots is not easy, and it's painful to the patient. You have to take everything apart. And you're going to have to go get a tubing syringe because you usually need one of those, but you can get the other ones that we use for the NG2 camera. The septo syringe. Can you think what you call it? But usually you're going to need a tube because you need pressure to get the clots out, which is not comfortable for the patient. Okay, so when you do that, I'm just telling you, that's why I keep it pink. I mean, I keep it peach colored. I don't like anything looking red or that kind of thing. When they first come out, you see bright red. That's because prostate is very vascular, so they're going to have bleeding. So what I do is turn it up till I get it clear. Fantastic. I'm looking at that patient's doing fine. If you keep it that way, you usually don't have a problem, but you got to have somebody going in there emptying all the time. Just saying. But it's a lot easier for the patient. And they usually have a cart outside the door, so you keep those supplies readily available so you can put them up. But you want to make sure it's flowing easily. If you have to remove a clot for a patient, always try to, if you can, medicate the patient ahead of time. So if they have a PCA machine, that's great. A lot of times what they'll have also is B&O suppositories, or belladonna and opiate. You get that as suppository. Men don't really like it until you tell them it's going to directly affect where I got to do something with you as a patient. Yeah, I know you got cut there, but I'm telling you, it's going to be great. You look sideways at first. But it's so much better as far as their pain management goes. So you give them suppository, wait 10 minutes or so. Anything you give rectally is going to be absorbed just like an IV. That's why you don't have to wait forever for the patient to take. You know how you give stuff and you have to wait till you can do your dressing change, that kind of stuff. It's almost like giving somebody an IV. So you give that to the patient, and I'm going to go in, sterile procedure that you're going to have to get this clot out with. So you got to clean stuff, you got to get normal saline, you got to irrigate the catheter. So all of that is a sterile technique for the patient, which if you're not comfortable with doing them, that's another thing. You know, that's one of the things you got to practice in life. Practice doing your sterile technique, setting up your sterile field, creating your dirty hand, your clean hand that you're going to be doing stuff with this patient. But when you put that syringe on, I always get a little bit of saline in my syringe. You're going to have to push and pull because the clots are usually right on the eye of your catheter. And that's what's painful. Because you got to keep doing that till you can get the suction, the clot out, depending on how big it is. And you keep doing that till it starts to run clear. And you can usually tell when it happens. Patients always say, oh my God, you're killing me, kind of thing. And when you pull it out, they feel better. But you can actually pull the clot out into the syringe. Once you do that, you want to put your fluid back on, run it wide open to make sure if there's other clots there, you can clear them out for the patient. That's not pleasant for the patient. Generally, when a person has this type of surgery, either for BPH or for prostate cancer, does the same procedure that you're going to do, the patient goes home with a catheter. So you know how in the hospital we always talk about you get the catheter out within 48 hours and you put it in? This is one where patients generally go home with the catheter in place because they're going to have it for a little while until they go back to the urologist's office. Okay, but the short term, what you want to do is make sure you get hemostasis. You want to stop the bleeding, but make sure the person doesn't have clots. And so hopefully they go home, urine's clear, that kind of thing. Okay. So once that is done, you make sure that you have continuous bladder irrigation running through here. That's normal saline that's going to be coming down through here. You're going to be emptying this. To get your patient's output, you have to subtract how much you're putting in here minus the amount that's, you get. Because if you put 6,000 cc's in here and get 7,000 out, then 1,000 is your urinary output. Okay, so just know you got to keep up with those numbers because you got to subtract what you're putting in as far as irrigation versus what's actually in the output of your catheter. But that's why it takes a lot of emptying, because people usually have big containers. They'll use the basins to measure, or they'll have like 3 or 4 different urinals in there so they can just empty it out all the time. But that's one of the ways that you can have, or treatment that can be done. Yeah,
when you're running the MLs through the tubing, how long does that usually take? How long is like one cycle would be?
A lot of it depends on how fast you're running it, because it generally, if you can get it, because the big part is if you do it early, so that you kind of get that to happen, as far as that whole thing about the irrigation helps to actually form it so that you don't have a lot of clotting afterwards. So what you do, I don't know whether the pressure from making sure you actually have it running all the time creates that or not, because I honestly don't know that part. But what it does is if you can get it so that you do that at the beginning, you're changing them pretty quickly, probably about every 2-3 hours at the beginning. But then once you start to slow it down, it takes a lot longer. But the major thing is just if you just have to kind of keep up with it. If you got a person that you know you're running pretty fast on, you got to have somebody who's going in there probably every hour just to make sure everything's all right. All right, now I might also, because with patients who have prostate cancer, they will have the added things that they might do on top of that. Some patients actually have implant or radiation implants or radioactive implants that are deposited in the prostate itself. Those can actually shrink the size of the tumor, stop the process of what's going on with the tumor. Sometimes you'll see that if it's found early, and I don't want to do this because the one thing about TURPs that can sometimes happen is that patients can have residual incontinence, impotency issues, that kind of thing. So with young people, you don't do all that kind of aggressive stuff in the beginning. You may opt to do something that is more on the radioactive side or the chemotherapy side. So those patients may actually end up with iridium seeds that are put into the prostate. You may also see them go on hormone therapy, and that's the funniest thing about that particular thing. It's not funny, but I had a friend who had prostate cancer, and he said that he was doing radiation and hormone therapy. So, but they give them female hormones. Okay, so that's what you're doing. Is you have to give things that are antagonistic toward what's causing the tumor. And so he went for radiation piece. You have to go when they actually sit you on a pad. They have to make 3 different impressions of your butt so that they can make your pad so they can see that the radiation beam is going to hit exactly where it needs to go every time you go to radiation therapy. So they're going to sit you on this pad, make sure it's fixed where it's going to be. They figure out where they're going to map out to do your external beam radiation, and that's where it's done. And you go for so many treatments for that. But the other thing he did was take female hormones, and he said that he understands now what hot flashes mean, because that's what he felt from taking the medication. He said, oh my God, you used to tell me all the time that you were hot. He said, now I know what you're talking about. I said, yeah, this is what it's like. So you do the course of therapy that it has, and he actually did I think he did 15 radiation treatments, and then he did the hormones for like a year and a half. So they're going to monitor you to see whether or not you have a decrease in the size of the tumor, all this kind of stuff. They're also going to do your PSAs, that's the prostate surface antigen, the blood work that you draw, to make sure those numbers are coming down as far as what's going on. They also use it as far as looking at your therapy to see if you're responding to that, see if those numbers are getting better as you're going along. But those are things that they also look and see whether or not you have any metastasis, especially because, like I said, it's a slow-growing tumor. So they're going to x-ray your hips, spine, that kind of thing. You may also see lower abdominal series done because another place that metastasized to is the bowel. So those are things that you do as far as working up other parts of your body to make sure that you don't have cancer, and that's somewhere else as a distant metastasis kind of thing. If it's caught early, patients can live a long, healthy life, this kind of thing. We can manage symptoms that the person has. The good thing is that we do have screening tests now. Before, we used to have people that just ended up there and would have, full-blown cancer. But now, because we have screening with lab work and with digital rectal exam, we can actually find people a lot earlier and start treatment. So that's the good thing. But the other thing is that you have to get people to do it. And sometimes that's easier said than done. Okay, so when the person gets to a certain age, they go like, what? You don't need to be doing that kind of stuff. What are you talking about? I've seen the gamut. You'll have people that say, something is wrong with me if I let people, do that kind of exam, all this kind of stuff. So you just have to let them know that, this is something we have to do. It's a screening tool. It's going to help us make sure that you end up living a long, healthy life. And then sometimes you can get across that. Other times you just really can't. They're going to say, no, you can't do it, whatever. So you see, all the thing where you can do at that point is just do your PSAs. Because all we can do is the lab work if you're not going to let us do the exam. But they really are supposed to be used in unison with each other. Because your PSA can be elevated. Like I said, if you had sex the night before, if you have prostatitis or some type of infection going on in the prostate, all of those things can negatively affect your values. So we have to look at the whole constellation of stuff that's going on for the patient to figure out what's happening. But sometimes they don't want to cooperate. And you can't fight with them. It's just life.